Welcome to the Soulful Surgeon Podcast with Dr. Lisa Hunsicker, a sanctuary for healthcare workers. In this space, we honor your stories, your struggles, and your triumphs. Here, you are more than your role. You are seen, heard, and celebrated. Join me as we explore conversations that nourish the heart, elevate the mind, and remind us why we chose the path of healing. This is your time. This is your place. This is the Soulful Surgeon Podcast. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Soulful Surgeon Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lisa Hunsicker. This is the place where healthcare workers come to be seen and heard. And as we've talked about over the last few weeks, we've been really focusing our time and energy on the 7 remedies of being. And as you know, remedy is a healing medicine, but it's also an action to restore something back to its innate natural properties, which is what we're trying to do here, getting back to our human being self and our humanity and getting away from the human machine. So today is really going to be a big, vast conversation, and it's really going to be mostly reflective. And I'm going to try not to talk to you in giving advice because honestly, this is everyone's journey. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and this is going to be something that maybe it's going to be more reflective. And I don't know if anyone has asked you any of these questions, but this is just a peek into this world of intention. And I'm not a guru, I'm not an expert on this. I'm simply talking about it because I think this is something that will help us. And I think there's a lot bigger experts out there. And I would love to talk with them. I think we'll spend some time talking on the podcast with guests who can help us understand this a little bit better. But when we talk about intention, some three things I really want to define before we get started is what is attention, what is intention, and what is purpose? Because I think that they're all interwoven into one another and we use them, but maybe there's some subtle differences. But then I want to take these words and then think about, well, how are we using these in our own life? And maybe this has to do maybe with our families, but really it's just stripping away all the layers of who we are and really getting down into the core of our humanity and our human being and who are we really. So the first thing I'm going to tell you, let's look at the definition of purpose. And this is by the Cambridge definition, Cambridge Dictionary. And so the definition of purpose is why you do something or why something exists. Okay. And then attention, and this is according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it's the act or state of applying the mind to something. And it's also a condition of readiness involving a selective narrowing or focusing of consciousness or receptivity. And then intention, and this is the Merriam Webster definition as well, it's a determination to act in a certain way. And it's what one intends to do or bring about. So these are some of the things that we're going to be thinking about today. So when you think about your life in general, what are the things that you have your attention focused on? And I feel like in my world, certainly it's going to be my job and my business and my private practice. It's also my family. It's this podcast, it's you all. But then what am I doing in my everyday life with intention? And what is it that I'm trying to bring about and to achieve? What am I intending to do? And it's not necessarily what have you achieved. And I think we as healthcare workers get really wrapped up in achievement because that's how we are, and goals and checking all the boxes. But really, what is it that when you're going about your day that you actively think about before you do it, and then you set your mind into thinking about what it is that you want to achieve in the next subsequent moments, and then go and do something with all of that thought process behind you, and then move forward. So, for me, and this is difficult because I've not really thought about this a whole lot until recently, and I'm trying to really come up with like what is my focus and what is my intention, and ultimately for me, my vision, my intention, my focus is really to focus on abundancy in my life, all the wonderful things that are just flowing into my life, and really not focusing on scarcity, but focusing on what I have and instead of what I don't have, and having gratitude and gratitude for so many things. I try and start my day with a gratitude list, end my day with a gratitude list that usually starts and ends with the health, happiness, and safety of my family and all the people that I care about, and then all the grateful things that have happened to me during the day. And sometimes my gratitude list starts with my intentions that I'm looking forward to being grateful for these things that I'm going to do during the day. So I think this is sort of a nebulous area that doesn't necessarily one person's version is the same for another person's. And I think nobody really asks us this. And so I like to think about this. And so let's talk about and think about together what are some of the areas that are important to us. So, what is your intention for your family? And just take a minute and think about that. My intentions for my family are health and safety, as we talked about, happiness, being able to live an authentic, purposeful life where they feel valued, honored, and understood. I think I would say that probably for me as well. What is your intention for your future? And I think this is something that we really need to spend some time talking about because many times we're thinking about, well, we're going to be doing all of these things in our careers. And at another time, when we have enough time, have enough money, our kids are grown up, I don't have these responsibilities or these responsibilities, that these are the things that I want to go and I want to do and I want to experience. But what if they don't come? And so is there a way to begin to think about that future and what your intentions are for that future, whatever that is, to maybe map out what that looks like and then create a roadmap to it. And maybe it's having pictures. Maybe it's going into a place where, if it's something in particular that you want to have or be part of, having images of those things so that you are constantly putting your attention. And one thing that I always like to think about is I feel I'm an energy person, and so energy flows where attention goes. And so wherever I'm putting my attention at, I need to be putting my attention on my intention and my purpose. And that's just giving all of my heartfelt energy and my thoughts and my plans and my desires and all of that focused on that next round of whatever it is that you'd like. I think that we really get so caught up in our world and in our micro world, our little microcosms of our families, especially if you have kids at home and all the things that have to be done. But we're really a much bigger part of a collective. And so, if we just think about all the different collectives, I'm a member of this home, and then I'm a member of the cul-de-sac that I live on, and I'm a member and a part of this street that I live on in the community of all of my neighbors. And then I'm a member of the community of this town, and then of this whole entire county and the state. And then I'm part of this country, and I'm part of this globe. But it's not just people. I'm part of the air and the environment and part of nature. And it extends much bigger into space, right? We're small bits and fragments of the cosmos. And so each one of us, we're part of the collective all. And how do you show up for your collective all? How does that feel? Does it feel like anything? Does it feel overwhelming? Is there a feeling of responsibility? Is there a feeling of disconnectedness because it's just this tiny, tiny blip in this vast amount of space and energy? With what you do in your day, whether it's practicing medicine or not, how does it affect the collective all? How does what you do affect the nature around you, the nature of the planet, the nature of our air, the nature of our water? Is it in support and in good health of it? Is it a detriment to it? Is there a way to help offset any of those things if maybe it's not in alignment with that? How do you interact with nature? Is that something that you're present for? I think that this is wonderful to be part of, and mindfulness is a wonderful way to step into nature and really go into the minutia. And again, using your attention to really be present and see what's in there. One of the things I like to do in the morning before I start my mornings. I wake up and then I meditate, and I put all of my attention and mindfulness in my energy, and I'm beginning to set the intentions for my day, for my life, really setting the intention for abundance, setting the intention for ease, setting the intention for equanimity for me, for my family, for everyone. And when I have enough time, especially on the weekends for sure, I like to go sit in our hot tub because it allows me to step into nature and be just another part of nature. And as you all know, I love to dive. And so I love being in the water. I like the feeling of the water on my skin. I like the temperature. I like to notice the temperature. I like to notice the steam coming off, especially in the winter. I like to notice if it is snowing and it's snowing on me. What does that feel like? What does my skin feel like? What does it feel like in my hair, on my shoulders? I like to look out into the open space right behind our house. I like to see the birds, what type of birds, see if I have any idea, if I can remember what the name of the birds are. And look how they're interacting. And they're eating. They're eating off our suet. They're eating the seeds that we've put out. We have a hummingbird feeder. And so they're feeding off of that. How are they interacting with each other? What do they look like? What are the special things about them? What are their colors? When the rufous hummingbird comes, what does it look like? How is it different from the broadtails that are here? What about the other ones walking up the little tree stump up to where the food is? Can they go upside down? Can they eat the seeds? But maybe they can't because they don't have the bill that will be able to penetrate it. How many are there? Is there a whole mafia of birds? Is it just one or two? What does the open space look like? I was very fortunate. A week ago, we were out getting ready to go into the hot tub, and a bobcat just walked right through the open space. And the bobcat had no idea I was even there, that our dog was there, and was just completely in the moment of walking through the open space. And I felt very grateful to be able to see that. Also felt very grateful not to be too close to it. We have deer that walk through, and that's something that they like to do in the morning. We have a group of 8 bucks that walk through. And looking at the bucks and how old are they? How big are they? What are the little things that are on their antlers? We have one particular buck that is missing an entire half a rack. He's lopsided. So these are all the things that we're looking at. And they all are interdependent on me, and I'm interdependent on them, and we're all part of this collective all of the environment. And so it's time to be able to, for me, when I'm in there in the hot tub, just being present and listening and feeling and not talking. Because when you're talking, probably not listening. So you're able to use all of your senses, and you can hear and see and smell and taste and touch, and then see what other things, what energy is there, and what are you feeling, what are the goosebumps that you get that maybe isn't related to the temperature but is related to something else there, that little tingle that you get on the back of your neck. What's there that you can't see? Something I want you to think about is, what else have you done in this life that has nothing to do with being in healthcare? You're not a healthcare worker in this question, but what else have you done in this life that's not healthcare related? And how does that impact how you feel and how you feel valuable, seen, or heard? How do you feel? Does it, when you've been doing these things, how do you connect to other people? And what are the things that they take away from merely being in your presence? What exactly is that? One thing many of us don't get asked is, what are your hopes and what are your dreams? So if you wave the magic wand and you can have anything. There's no restrictions, no time restriction. You can go back in time, go forward in time. There's no money restrictions. You have all the money to be able to do whatever it is. Whatever it is that you want to do doesn't even require money. You just have to wish and want and intend to do that. What are those things? And how does it make you feel? Like, what's the feeling if you could have whatever those hopes and dreams are? Close your eyes and think about this. And you have all of these things right now. It's all that you ever wished and hoped for. How does that feel? How does that feel in your heart? How does that feel in your body? Do you relax? Do you sigh a feeling of relief? Do you inhale and gasp a feeling of excitement, enjoyment? How does that feel? And what is that really, what is that feeling giving you to be connected to? And then when you're in that feeling, how does that influence where your attention goes and your interactions with the collective all? Does that bring you out? Does it pull you away a little bit? How does that feel? What do you think your purpose is? If you've achieved and you've gotten your dreams, what's your purpose? I love Patrice Washington's group, Redefining Wealth. And in that community, there's something that she says pretty regularly, and is something that we always talk about in that community. And it is, what's your purpose? And when you think about it, whatever it is that you're doing, do it with purpose, on purpose, for purpose. And I quote Patrice Washington because that really is her saying. She says that all the time. And when I am approaching things and I'm trying to figure out, why am I doing this? And we're really getting into the deep nitty gritty inside. Why are we doing this? When you figure out why it is and when you decide what your purpose is, you have to do it with purpose, on purpose, for purpose. And if it doesn't feel good, then it might not be aligned. So you have to take a minute and pause and say, this is what I thought my purpose was, but as I'm doing it, it's not feeling that feeling that you felt with the hopes and dreams and that relaxation and ease and equanimity and abundance. If that feeling is going away and there's a feeling of unease, disconnection, or something, then maybe that's not authentically aligned with what you really want to be doing. And maybe you have to ask yourself that question. Maybe there's a direction shift and that would maybe make this better. I don't know each person's view of that, but it would be interesting to see what you all think about this. Put a put a comment in the chat, and again, please put, what type of medicine that you're in, what you do, and where you're at, and then please comment away because this community is for all of us. I think one of the interesting things that I experienced, we were on the way out of town, and so we were listening to a podcast, and so I was listening to Dan Harris, and he was doing this podcast, and he brought about a conversation that he had had on an earlier podcast, and he brought it into the conversation for his podcast. And he was talking and interviewing a death doula. And I had never heard of this, and I know about hospice care, but I had never really experienced or even known about a death doula. And we know about birthing doulas, and there's death doulas as well. And so I like to think of it as a birthing doula and a departing doula. And so the question that I think about with, this person's job is to spend the last moments, whether it's a day, weeks, months, perhaps, depending on what the situation is, of a reflective time, perhaps, in a person's life when they are imminently going to die and they're aware enough to even have a conversation about it and really talk about the meaningful things that they have experienced and maybe things they wish they did, things they wish they didn't do. And so the question that I'm going to pose to you is, when you are done in this life, what are you most proud of? And just think about that. And then once you have that in your mind, then why? Why are you proud of that? I think for me, one of the things I'm most proud about is being a mom. And I think it's been a job that I've really struggled through the years because of all the demands of my career. But I can't think about anything that I have done with more intention and with very focused attention and with love. And then becoming a mom and then navigating that role and watching this young baby who is essentially helpless grow into this incredible young man. And the thing I'm most proud of is one, being able to be there and watch and help guide him in that journey. So, what is it for you? And then what is it, you're about to depart from this world. What do you regret? And what do you wish you had done or maybe not have done? And for me, my regret is not spending more time with my family. And I think it's really important to really make a very intentional inside look about this and what do you regret? And the question is are any of those things you can do anything about now? And obviously, if you're on your deathbed, it just depends on what your capabilities are and what that is. But, as we talk today in this podcast, what do you regret? And is there any of those things that you can maybe change? And for me, yeah, not spending as much time with my family. So trying to cut back my hours, trying to be more thoughtful about arranging my hours. Our son is off at college. And so knowing when he has classes, me trying to get as much of my practice work done, my podcast work done, and then really navigating his schedule and my schedule and trying to exert an influence over my schedule so it can try and align with that. Same thing with my wife. She's a trauma surgeon, so she's on call and it's very different. So we always look week to week to try and figure out, well, what what are the gaps that can overlap? And many times for the two of us, and now with him being off in college, the three of us to vacation together, what are the time periods that we can put a lot of attention to and put intention to create time so that we can spend it together? So I don't know what your regrets are, but some of them may be something that we can still do something about. And I think putting so much more thought into, well, here's my goal. This is what I wanted. And let's back plan out of that. And how do I get from where I am now to perhaps where I want to be and move that from something that, well, I really regretted this, but now something that I'm really most proud of. I think the other thing is what what is your higher self like? And that's really, this is again this very global question of who do you want to be? And if you could be all the things that you wanted to be, what would that be? And how would that interact with the collective all and your higher consciousness? And that's something that I'm navigating now. I don't have an answer for. And maybe some of you have really gotten into a good connection with that. And I invite you to share that. Please place that in the comments. And I'd love to hear about what that is for you. All of this, I think we have to grow because, not every day are we going to be healthcare workers. And we are maybe right now, maybe some people watching this are already moved on to something different. But ultimately, we are still part of this large collective and not in a healthcare way. Simply our existence is, and how are we showing up for ourselves and for the people in all of our communities, especially this one. So I hope this gave you some things to think about. Please put comments down on this. If you find something that's helpful, please put that on. And if there are any guests that you would like to hear from that you think would be great to hear on this podcast, please put their names down because I would love to really sit down and interview them and put your questions down that you would want to hear from them. So at the end of this, I'm going to sign off simply with namaste. Thank you for joining me on the Soulful Surgeon podcast. I hope today's conversation offered you reflection, encouragement, and a reminder that you are not alone on this journey. If this episode spoke to your heart, please share it with someone who might need it as well. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment of connecting with healthcare workers all over. You can find us on the web at soulfulsurgeon.com. You can find us on Instagram at Soulful Surgeon. And you can find us on LinkedIn at Lisa Hunsicker, MD. Until next time, take care of yourself the way you care for others. And remember, your story matters here.